Hi, this is Steve Draper of Knowledge Base Consulting, and today we're going to look at GNS3 along with some basic switching and routing using Cisco devices. We're going to put out a 3600 router and a couple of those, make it interesting. We're going to then take, and I'm kind of a little bit of a neat freak when it comes to these. I like to tidy them up to make them look less busy because they have a tendency to look busy. So I'm going to grab an Ethernet switch and another Ethernet switch, and we're going to kind of position them. I like to put the designation down so that it's not sticking above the device. Let's go grab some cabling and we'll cable these together. We're going to connect the Ethernet 0 interface of the workstation to the switch, and let's go to 1. We'll go to port 1. It doesn't really matter. We're going to go from the fast Ethernet 00 of the router to port 8. We're going to connect the serial links between these two routers, serial 10 to serial 10. And then we'll go from fast Ethernet 00 on the switch to port 8 of the, router to the port 8 of the switch, and port 1 of the switch to the Ethernet 0 of the other workstation. And like I said, I kind of like to straighten these out a little bit. I don't know if I would never go as far as saying I'm a neat freak, but I do like to make sure that these are lined up fairly reasonable. So we're going to fire all these up, and we're going to go into the router number 1 console, and it still looks like it's just finished booting. So let's go inside here. We got a few things to configure here. Let's put our network designation down. We have the 10.10.10 network. The router interface for router 1 will be 10.10.10.1 and become the default gateway. And then we have the 20.20.20 network between routers. That'll be a 30-bit mask. And then we have our 30 network. That'll include the router port and the workstation. So we have to draw this out so that we kind of know where we're going to go with our configuration. So let's do a config T. Go under fast Ethernet 00 of router 1, and we're going to add the IP address 10.10.10.1 for fast Ethernet 00 with a 24-bit mask. That'll be our default gateway. And we got to do our obligatory no shut. Remember, the router ports are all shut down. Then we're going to go under the serial 10 interface. That'll be our 30-bit mask, 20.20.20.20.1 on the router 1. .2 on router 2. You have to know how to spell the word shut. We turn it on. We're going to create an IP DHCP pool, but before we do, we're going to need to do an IP DHCP exclude address because we always want to reserve certain IP addresses for the default gateway, for example, or maybe some switches, maybe a print server, what have you. So we're going to reserve 10.10.10.1 through 10.10.10.9, and then the first IP address for that pool will be 10.10.10.10, and that's what the workstation will pull. We're going to go ahead and do the IP DHCP pool command, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to advertise to DHCP clients the 10.10.10 network with a 24-bit mask and a default gateway of 10.10.10.1. So any clients doing a discover will find that 10 network with a .1 address with a 24-bit mask will be handed out. So let's go take a look at PC1, and we're going to type in DHCP to kick off the DHCP process, and it looks like it's working. There we go, and as you can see, we pulled the 10.10.10 address, and that's good. Let's go do the same thing to router 2. We're going to configure router 2 now. We're going to do our interfaces first. Interface serial 10. Our IP address is 20.20.20.2 with a 30-bit mask, 255.255.255.252. No shut to turn it on. Let's go into fast Ethernet 00, and we're going to give it a 30 address, 30.30.30.1 with a 24-bit mask. And then we'll do our no shut to turn it on. And let's do our IP DHCP exclude address so that we can reserve 30.30.30.1 through 9, and the first IP address will be handed out to a DHCP client. Will be, you guessed it, 30.30.30.10. IP DHCP pool, and I do like to go with the 30_net for the 30 network, and put the network statement in there with the mask. And then the default gateway of .1 for the 30 network. So let's go to PC2. We're going to do DHCP, kick off DHCP here. And we do our discover, we get our offer, we do our request, and we get our acknowledgement, the 4-step handshake. And as you can see, the first IP address handed out is going to be 30.30.30.10 with a default gateway of .1. Let's do a show IP route and see what we got so far. We know about the 20 network and we know about the 10 network because we have an interface with a leg inside those networks. So we know about them. What we don't know about is the 30 network from the 10 network. It's one hop away. It's more than one hop away, so we have to tell it. So we put in our IP route statement and we tell router 1 about the 30 network. In order to reach the 30.30.30 network, you'll do so through 20.20.20.2, which is the interface, which is the next hop towards that network. Remember that routing is next hop. Sorry, let's tell router 2 about the 10 network, 10.10.10. network. In order to reach that with a 24-bit mask, you'll go to 20.20.20.1. That is the next hop. Whoops. And we do our Control A. We go to the far left. We type in the word route, and we try to correct our mistakes. And by the way, you can learn volumes more. It's not our goal to make mistakes, but you can learn volumes more through mistakes than you can getting it right the first time. So we're not afraid to make mistakes, especially in a lab environment. Now on a production network, that's a little bit different. We want to be a little bit more safe. So we're going to go for the Grand Slam from PC1 to PC2. We're going to try to ping 30.30.30.10. And we see the first couple of pings time out because the ARP cache has to get populated. And then the subsequent pings are good. Once the ARP cache is populated, we know that in order to get that IP address, we use an Ethernet frame and build an Ethernet frame with this MAC. So let's play around a little bit. We got a couple of things we can do here. We're going to add another workstation. It's going to connect that up. And that's going to give us another DHCP client. We'll get that started and we'll go to the console. And we'll do a DHCP, which kicks off the 4-step discovery, offer, request, and acknowledgement. And that's what that stands for. Discover, offer, request, and acknowledgement. And we see that we are .11 and we still have a default gateway of .1. So let's play around a little bit with some you can see the binding here, by the way, on the router side by doing a show IP DHCP bind or BIN. You may notice I like to abbreviate. I like to do as little work as possible because I am a low effort individual. So I like to type in show IP DHCP bin, which stands short for binding. Let's create an access list and play around with it a little bit here. And we're going to do IP access list 101 extended. We want to put the name. We want to name IP. Okay. Block underscore dot 10. It's probably too. I probably should have just done block underscore 10, but hey, we'll leave it like that. IP host. 10.10.10.11. By the way, the question mark's your friend. And then we got to use our wildcard mask because it is an access list. And by using quad zeros, we're saying exclusively add only .11. Otherwise, we could allow a subnet or a range in the subnet. In this case, we're just saying allow .11, which the only other device on that network is .10, so it should deny it. So let's go into fast Ethernet 00, and we'll apply the access list. IP access group, it's access group on the interface side. Let's see, what would I name that? Block underscore. Now let's try it. So this one should work because it's .11, and it does work. Here we go. Let's try it again. Just up arrow key. And look at that. It's a type 3, code 13, communication administratively prohibited. So that's ICMP. ICMP's coming back telling me why my packets aren't making it. So we're done. Pretty cool, huh? Thank you for listening. Have a great day.